We are back, people. What is up? Another stream. Dolphins draft stuff. We're getting closer and closer. Thank God. It's less than a month away now. From I think it's literally about like 4 weeks until the draft actually happens, which I'm so excited for. Going to be a huge time for the Dolphins franchise. Kind of see, for this year and kind of the future with building a lot of the core of this team. So excited to really the main question, I wanted to get answered and go through these position groups. It's like, what is the biggest positional need? Because I do believe if you look at this roster, there's actually different ways to answer that question, depending on the perspective you look at it from. And we go a little more narrow and go straight up which room needs the most quantity. It's probably defensive tackle, defensive line. But if you look at a very specific position, like wide tight end or safety, and you look at top end talent compared to other, it could be more them in that situation. But yeah, look what you guys are saying. Makuba third round, yes, that would be that's one of those easiest. If Makuba is there in the third round, I'd be running up to the podium. Easiest decision in my life. I don't think he'll be there, just because his film is too good. But you never know with undersized safeties. Sometimes they fall. But the Dolphins' third round pick is pretty late too, so I don't think he'll be there. But if he did, it would be one of the easiest positions. Would you trade pick 13 for left guard Tyler Smith from Dallas? Probably not. I know he's pretty good. He's a real good player, but I think the Dolphins need as many players on because he's on a rookie contract still, but I think you need as many players on long rookie contracts as possible that are going to be relatively cheap for 4+ years, while Tyler Smith is going to have to get paid pretty soon, unless he just got paid. He was drafted a few years ago, so he might have literally just got paid. I'm not 100% sure, but I probably wouldn't do it just due to the money that you have to pay, and I think there's just bigger fish to fry. I think the Dolphins can. I think guard's a big need, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to go by each position. We're going to go through the positions and kind of rank them in biggest positions of need. And I think guard's one of the bigger ones, but I do think it's one that you can fail in the second round or potential still free agency. But yeah, we're gonna go through this boundary corner. Yep, boundary corner is gonna be up there for me. But I just want to kind of talk through it. Who's your top crush guy for Miami to draft? Ooh. My top, I have a lot of guys. Obviously, I'm huge on Tyler Warren. He would be up there. I think Andrew Makuba, who I just talked about, he would be one of my top crush guys for Miami to get. I'm a big Jahdae Barron fan. Some other guys maybe a little bit later, like a Jacob Parrish. I love Jacob Parrish. But there's a decent amount of names like that, kind of across the board. Got us taking Kenneth Grant and then Marcus Bo's a beast too. I love Marcus Bo. Gonna talk some Kenneth Grant today too. Also, I made a video. It's currently members only, but it will be out on Saturday for everyone to see. It's a new kind of style video. Usually, I make film breakdowns, but it's kind of like this where I just talk to the camera. We have some cut-ins with film and stuff, and I just went the best 3 fits on the defensive line in the draft for the Dolphins, and just kind of broke down those 3 players in one video. So definitely check that out. And if people like that, I'll try to make it more top 3 best fits at each position, because I started with D-line, because obviously D-line's a big need. But let's kind of go through. So obviously, I think on the offense side of the ball, you can narrow down the positions that are in discussion. We can get rid of certain positions like quarterback, running back, receiver, I think tackle and center. Those aren't the biggest needs. I think on offense, it comes down to guard and wide tight end, specifically wide tight end. Obviously not the F, you have Jonnu. But specifically guard, left guard or right guard, whatever one James Daniel's not playing out, because right now your top guy is probably Liam Eichenberg. And then wide tight end, your top guys either Pharaoh Brown or Julian Hill. So those are 2 positions that I think are in contention for bigger needs. I don't want to eliminate them right away. I think the other ones clearly not as big in needs. You could probably upgrade at some of those spots, but not a huge disparity. And then defense, realistically, you could probably keep all the positions in besides edge. Edge, you have a lot of talent, and you have it's pretty deep now with a lot of the guys you added. You have people that can get there. Obviously, we'll keep D-line. I think I'll probably eliminate linebacker with all the bodies they added. I do think the Dolphins could upgrade at the second linebacker, but with Jordan Brooks and like 3 other people that can still at least play a little bit, it's not going to be one of the biggest needs for Miami. And then I think you keep safety and corner in there because corner too, you're good at nickel and you have Jalen Ramsey, and then safety, you added people, but I do think they're still like your potential starters are still some of like your weaker starting positions for sure. So I think those will definitely be in the conversation. Tate Rowledge round 2. Yeah, Rowledge would be a good pick around 2. Kenneth Grant. Yeah, I do agree. I honestly, Kenneth Grant feels. I mean, I've talked about it. I think it would be a good pick. I have a list here. I highlighted some people's name. I have like my list of notes on all my prospects here. I highlighted names that I think are in play for the Dolphins at 13. And the ones I would be like, I highlighted them if I think they're in play, and I would be like totally good with it at least. Like not ones I would like dislike. And Kenneth Grant's one of those names, and I'll talk about all of those players later on in the stream. But Kenneth Grant honestly just feels, I don't know why, but my like, if I had to like guess a player that the Dolphins are going to take, I don't know why, just Kenneth Grant feels like he would have the highest percentage right now because I think he's going to be on the board, and I think the Dolphins will like him. I mean, it's obviously a big position of need. But yeah, let's see what you guys saying. What's up, Elwood? Desmond Watson. What are some starter caliber corners in second or maybe 3? I'm not a Zaya Alexander fan. Yeah, some corners could potentially start on day 2. Yeah, I would say like Trey Amos, Ole Miss corner. I think if he's day 2, he's a solid one. And then there's some injured corners like Benjamin Morrison, like Notre Dame. He has really good film. Like his 2023 film is really good. If he's there on day 2, I think he's one. And I think he would only fall to day 2 because he is coming off that shoulder injury. Some other day 2 options, this is where it gets a little tricky. I would say Thomas from Florida State. And then some of these guys could go a little bit later, but I like Jacob Parrish. Some of the other Williams, like Noel Williams, Mac McWilliams, they'll probably go a little bit later. Maybe Dorian Strong would be seen as a scheme fit. Some people like Darian Porter from Iowa State. Not for me, but he is a super athlete. Let's see. Yeah, I do think Donald and Irene, just your account. I do think Michigan, does feel like a Michigan player has a decent chance of being the pick. And we've always talked about it with like, Steve Ross, he obviously Michigan alum and loves Michigan players. We don't end up taking a lot of them. So I wonder in this class, like, because it seems like if Mason Graham falls, he was likely to be the pick. Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson, all have a decent chance of being that pick if they're on the board, I think. So it might end up being a Michigan player this year. I was actually going to mention that. Hoping a tackle slides down the draft and the Texans get desperate enough to trade with us. Definitely a possibility. It would have to be, I think it would be probably a premium position player like tackle or something. Would Bo start right now at left guard? I don't know. Bo is a tough one. I think Bo is a really interesting skill set. I actually think, like, I know he has the limited length. I kind of see Zach Tom. I wouldn't be surprised if a team drafts him and actually keeps him at tackle. And allows him to use his athleticism more out in space and allows him to like really use all that nuanced stuff that he does. Darian Porter. I do think he could transition to safety. But I just don't see him like, I think he's going to go super high because of how well he tested. And I don't see that good of like a player. Like I thought he got beat quite often and, was a little stiff, like obviously very explosive. But where's my Darian Porter notes? Yeah, he struggled to like change direction. He's a very good linear athlete, but he lacks spatial awareness, gets grabby. He has good ball skills, but I think he's more of like a cover 3 style corner. And obviously that's what the Dolphins are the most of, but I think you put him in other coverages and he would start to struggle. What up? But yeah, I think let's go through it. So obviously certain positions off the table. I think if we look at it from very like, this is how I'm thinking about it, right? Like if you look at it from like a broad perspective, the biggest need is probably D tackle. Because right now you only have kind of 2 guys who would even make the team in that room. So like from a quantity, big picture perspective, you kind of need defensive line in the room. If you're looking at it from that perspective, I think D-line would be at the top. obviously it's a big need no matter what. Like you need to upgrade there. There's this class is the class to do it. I've said it. I'm not super concerned about them filling in the D line room. I think they'll get to it eventually. Uh, but if you look at it from a perspective of like you narrow in on it and you look at like your top players, like yeah, the D line room doesn't have bodies, but you have Zach Sealer. You don't have a corner two right now, but in the corner room you still have Jalen Ramsey, so you still have like a top player there. Same with the linebacker room. Like you're looking to maybe upgrade at linebacker too, but you still got Jordan Brooks. You want to upgrade at your guards, but you do have James Daniels. You look at wide tight end, and it's like, ooh, we don't really have anyone. You have John New to play tight end, but you don't really have a wide tight end specifically. And then you look at the safety room, and it's like, oh, we added bodies there, but you don't really have a stud safety. So that could I think if you look at it from that perspective, that could bump up wide tight end and safety to be bigger needs than maybe people think. I'm trying to think of how the Dolphins see it. They probably, I think, aren't thinking that way exactly. Like they're considering it, but I think they're thinking more of that other view of they need to upgrade it, D-line, corner for sure. Because I think they're looking at more premium, impactful positions, which I think D-line and corner are more seen that way. And they think they can probably get away with what they have at safety, tight end type of thing. And then potentially guard is in the middle of that conversation, at least from the Dolphins' perspective. So I think overall Dolphins are going to see D-line and then probably secondary as the biggest needs. And then O-line maybe next, because if you really look at it, if you look at it from the O-line as a whole perspective, it's not that bad. You have your starters for the most part, except probably one. You have 4 of your 5 at least figured out. Even if Armstead retires or not, Patrick Paul will start at left tackle, whether Armstead's there or not. I mean, if Armstead's there, Armstead will start. But I'm saying your left tackle position's figured out no matter what. It's really just one of your guard spots that you need to zone in on. And there is some options out there. If you guys saw Barry Jackson tweeted this out the other day. I believe it was yesterday, actually. Yeah, per over the cap, Dolphins have decided to charge only $2.2 million of Zach Wilson's $6 million salary to this year's cap, so they're pushing some of it back. Adding those void years, which is becoming more and more of a thing. And depending where you look, there's different sources, but one of the cap size has the Dolphins at about $21 million. The other one has them around $16.5 million. So they still have money to work with. I wonder if that means they're still they obviously have to do the draft class. But that does leave them still money to sign another solid level free agent, and then you keep the rest for you need to keep some just in case certain things happen. But the Dolphins free agent number hits are actually kind of interesting. Nick Westbrook-Akine is only 1.6 this year, 1.6 million, which is interesting. Dotson is 2.5 this year. Melifon was 2.5. James Daniels hits only 2.7 million. So they're not taking some lower hits this year. Most of the guys are pretty low. No one really has a high hit against the cap out of the guys they've signed or re-signed, which is, I think, interesting. Just wanted to mention that. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. Okay, what do you think the left guard position will be week 1, a free agent or a pick? That's, I don't know, just pure speculating, but if it was up to me, it would be a free agent. I think I would go into the year with a free agent, and then that would allow me to go into the draft with more flexibility. You could still take a guard early, but does it force you to? Because you still would, then you would be able to take more defensive look, which I think is actually the right move. I don't think Greer drafts O-line high. I think defense heavy. First Johnson, second Watts, third Collins, and sign a guy like Hernandez post draft. That thinking Greer, yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't mind that at all. I actually think that would be kind of good thinking, at least for this year. So, and I don't know if that was exactly how the draft would play out, but I do kind of agree with that thinking. But I do think they would probably go. I don't think he would go secondary back to back. I think he would probably get a D lineman in there. But Collins in the third would be great value if he was actually there. Jay Wright is jacked, and I did see those photos of Jay Wright. Hey, thank you, Tyson. Yeah, they could bring in Brandon Scherf. He's one of the options at guard. I think Will Hernandez would just be a better option because he's younger and would play with a little more physicality. I think Scherf Scherf is like quite old, and it seems like he was falling off towards the end of his career. So I think I would prefer Hernandez, but Scherf is an option, at least better than what you have. So like if he came in super cheap, like I wouldn't be mad about it. But yeah, that's sort of definitely one of them. But I do think like I made this video. It's members only right now, but it's I would say top 3 best fits on the defensive line for Miami Dolphins. That's what the video is. So it's like a new style video. Should be out for everyone to see by Saturday. So definitely check that out for like the guys that I think are like the best fits. And I go into like super details. And if people like that, I might do it for like every position. I kind of like that. I got these kind of highlighted. So yeah. And I think safety's a weird one, man. Like I'm trying like safety is one of the positions I have trouble kind of trying to get into the head of the Dolphins with. Because they didn't put one, it's not a premium position. 2, last year the safety play was pretty bad. Like Jordan Poyer was bad, and it was Holland's worst season. So the safety play was pretty bad, but your defense wasn't necessarily your defense played pretty well in comparison to how bad the safety play was. So maybe they look at it from that perspective and think like, we just need average safety play to be good. Like it is one of the positions that is the least impactful from like a snap to snap basis, just based on how they align. But also, if you look at like the Ravens defense where Anthony Weaver came from, they did have like the Kyle Hamilton guy that could do it all and be like super impactful. And they think maybe if they can get that, and they did sign guys in free agency like Melifonwu and Ashton Davis. And I don't know if they see those guys as starters necessarily, but I don't think they're going to go into the draft and try to get 2 safety starters. They might try to get 1. So safety is probably the position I have like the hardest time trying to, pin down on what the Dolphins are thinking, just based on like moves they've made. So that one will be interesting to see how it plays out. I think they're I think with safety, they're thinking like they put themselves in a position where like they'd be cool taking one early if that's how the board fell. But if it didn't, they think they can get away with like getting cheaper at that spot compared to last year, and then younger compared to what Poyer was. And then thinking like, hey, it can't be worse than it was last year anyways. And we still think we can just make our defense better just by getting stronger up front, having more edge players, getting more defensive line. Because I think for sure they're going to draft D-line. D-line is like one of the, like, I think they're going to draft multiple D-line. They didn't do it at all last year because they signed so many in free agency. That's why I think like with safety and linebacker, they signed multiple. Last year in the draft, they didn't draft any defensive tackles. And if you will go back and look at defensive tackle, they signed so many people last year. This year, they barely signed anyone. They only re-signed Benito Jones. But I think they're going to draft D-tackle for sure. And then they signed 2 safeties, and they signed 3 linebackers total. So it kind of seems like, hey, we're going into the draft thinking like we don't need to necessarily maybe take those early. More so linebacker than safety. Like I still think safety could potentially be taken, but that's just kind of how I'm seeing it right now. D-line's a big need no matter what. And then corner. I think maybe they wanted to sign a corner, but it just didn't work out. And maybe they still think they can. There's still a lot of free agent like vets out there. But I think corner, they're going to wait now and just be like, let's see what happens. If we draft one early, in the first 2 rounds, we draft one early and we don't have to sign one after the fact. But if they aren't in a position to draft one early, then they'll sign someone to start. I think that one is a position they're kind of being like fluid in the situation right now. But I do think they're probably thinking about drafting one pretty early. Definitely in like the first 2 days. But yeah, let me see. Let's see. Where did I last read? Okay. Do you think they prioritize going for safety early in the draft? Are they happy with what they have? Oh, I kind of just talked about that, Alex. Okay. I didn't even see your question. So what free agents you have in mind? Well, to me, if I was going after free agent, I would be going after guard first, because I think going after O-line makes the most sense just compared to what you have in the draft. Just get it taken care of, get guard taken care of. Maybe they wait till after the draft anyways. I think they might just wait until after the draft and see what they actually end up doing, because you never know where the board's going to fall. But then they can sign players like Will Hernandez. Maybe they sign corners after the fact, like a Rasul Douglas or something. But yeah. Ryder, what do you know about bump corner from Baltimore? I don't know who you're talking about. One last question. There's only one player available. I would break my draft. QB Jackson Dart. I would not take Dart. I can see why people like him, and he's just a very streaky player on film. And to me, it's just when it comes to QBs, they all go higher than they should. You know, that's just how it goes. I can understand why people like him. He has some intriguing like games and traits to work with. I just don't know if I see him as a fit for what McDaniel likes to do. Like he's not really an anticipator. And those scheme he played in was very tough to watch at times. And he's a guy that like maybe if he fell to like round 3, I would start considering it, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But I can definitely understand why people like him. It's just to me, when it comes to quarterback, I would wait till next year at this point. You kind of honestly, Zach Wilson and Jackson Dart are kind of not too dissimilar. I'm actually pretty sure they're like kind of similar sizes, kind of similar athletes too. And you know, when Zach Wilson came out, he was kind of similar to what Dart was with you know, some traits to work with, but was not a finished product. So maybe they just think that's what they're doing with Zach Wilson. They're taking that chance because he's still pretty young. Did Greer draft make it? He said just he starts the first if he goes that way, maybe. Yeah, that is true. Greer, when did Greer really start? Because Minka is what, 2018? Greer was like basically like when did he really get control of that room? Was it around that time? He was definitely there though, like with I can't remember because I know like the 2016 draft he had a big part in, but I think it was still Tannenbaum was technically still like the main guy. So he's definitely probably a part of that. So like he probably could justify maybe Starks because of the Minka thing. But outside of that, who knows? Who's your biggest RB sleeper pick? Maybe like Bashal Tootin from Virginia Tech. He has some really good film. Only problem is he has a fumble problem. But man, that guy is explosive. CB and D tackle, I feel are Greer's top targets. I agree with that too. From Greer, from like what the Dolphins are thinking, yeah, I agree. I think they definitely see D line and corner as bigger needs than like guard right now. And then I don't wide tight end. I think wide tight end and safety are like the ones that are the toughest to get a read on. I think they definitely are thinking about it, but I don't think they're thinking about it in the same way I am. And they're probably seeing them as like potential, like they're going to take it in the draft, but it'll probably be a little bit later than I would want. Ryan Cooper. Oh, from the Oregon State kid. Yeah, I didn't have too many thoughts about that. I went back and watched some of his Oregon State film. But I didn't see. I can't remember exactly what I thought, but I remember not having like too many things to like say about it. We'll see how it works out. Julian Blackman. They're probably not going to. Something's. How many hours a day you watch film? It just depends. I mean, some days I don't get a chance to watch film, and then some days I'll watch film for a few hours. Just depends. Like I've already watched like so much now, like it's starting to slow down. But then there's like new guys to find. Sometimes I get more film on certain players that I got like a better feel about. But yeah. So I would say right now I think D line and corners are going to be seen as like the top needs. But if you really look at it from just like a very specific, like if you go very specific positionally, like you could use a huge upgrade at wide tight end. You could use a huge upgrade at like free safety. Because right now your top free safety is like Ashton Davis. So hopefully they are considering those. I hope they don't just if those are best player available and it's like first or second round, just because they're not premium positions, I hope they don't just like decide not to take it, even if they're best player available, you know? Like if best player available is, you know, Xavier Watts in the second round, I hope, you know, they would take Xavier Watts. Pretty sure, what did I see Watts tested earlier too? I think Watts ran like a 4.55. That's, you know, pretty solid for safety. Not too mad about it. I know Mason Taylor actually ran like mid 4.5s, which is good for him as well. Mason Taylor is another name I think the Dolphins would be interested in, potentially on day 2. And I do like him as well. And he's also obviously would be like a legacy player. I also saw what the thing where like Yeah, the Dolphins assistant GM was at Louisville's pro day, I believe, which that's where Tyler Shuck is, the quarterback. I don't know necessarily if that means too much, but Tyler Shuck is one of the more intriguing quarterbacks to watch in this draft class. I don't think I would take him, but his film is pretty fun. He has some of the crazy, like, boneheaded plays being made, but he have some fun film. But he is 26 and has had some injuries, so to me, that's like, I'm probably not gonna, like, if he's getting bumped up, it seems. So like, he to me was like a day 3 guy I would have been, okay with, but it seems like he might even go before that. Watts is my draft crush. Yeah, Watts is a guy I like a lot. They usually go PPA, right? I wonder if a round 1 wide receiver, if they take him at 48, or do they only look at their positions if needed? Dolphins are traditionally a pretty big, I think, BPA team, and they like to go. Well, that's they. I think how, at least from my understanding, is the Dolphins kind of stack their board. Like, if they give people grades, but then they, like, if they're like, these grades are pretty close, they stack players who are like at more of a, either not like necessarily positional need, but like premium positions. They'll bump them higher than, say, like, even if they think like a running back's film is better than, say, an edge, the edge will be ranked higher on their board because it's close enough, and edge is just more of an important position in their mind, that type of thing. So it just depends on how they stack it. But yeah, I can see Grant at 13 and Watts at 48, or might just be wishing. I would be down for that. I mean, it'd be a fun defensive combo because one would really help out in the middle. Obviously, Grant is a huge human being, and to me, I just see I'm not against Grant. I think Grant is a good player, and I do think he'll probably rank in the between like the 15 to 20 rank for me. So like, taking him at 13 isn't that really big of a reach. I just think there's probably a few players I'd take over him, but like, I think he's gonna be a damn good player in the league for years, and he does, like, even if he didn't like get any better from where he is now, and I still think there's upside to work with as a pass rusher because he still has, like, I think could rush better with a plan. But the way he moves, like, his lateral quickness at his size is absolutely ridiculous. And like, you can disrupt a pocket with him. And then Xavier Watts, I think, would actually be a really good complement to, like, if Melifonwu was your other starter. Him and Melifonwu have a pretty complementary skill set, and Watts would be your free safety on the back end that can also actually create some turnovers because that guy is a guy that just seems like a ball magnet. Yeah. Any local insight on Martinez running back? I'm a big Martinez fan. I think, honestly, I even think some of his stock kind of went down a little bit being at Miami, just because of their scheme. Because I thought he was even better at Oregon State. Like, they ran more like under center at Oregon State, and I think that kind of, fit better for his play style. And they did a lot of things out of gun with Cam Ward, obviously, in Miami. But obviously, I think he's probably the best, like, short yardage back in the class. I think the numbers back that up, and the film backs it up. Great contact balance. I also think he's kind of underrated with his explosiveness. Because he might not be like the fastest guy, straight line speed, but he makes some explosive cuts. Has some good lateral quickness at his size. So I'm a fan of Martinez, especially in like that. You get, like, you never know with running backs, but I do think like maybe like a round 3-ish player. He's a good guy to watch. Where do you live? Tennessee. Tyler has some. Yeah, there's one. I have it actually right here if you guys want to see it. This one's actually so funny. This one's Tyler Shuck. Sometimes he just does some dumb shit. Here he is under pressure. Let him just throw that ball out there. He's so lucky that they dropped it. Like, definitely some tough things to watch. But yeah, to me, like, okay, so here's how I kind of want to go through the first the first 2 picks right now. At 13, I have these players highlighted that I think, one, it's a couple of different things. Players that I would be good taking at 13. Maybe not my favorites, not all, like, because I'm gonna have a few names here. Maybe not guys I would for sure like take every single time, but that I would be good with taking them. Also, guys, I think the Dolphins would potentially be interested in. So this list that I have highlighted here is Will Johnson. Not in any order, by the way. I'm just kind of going through positions. So Will Johnson, I think, 1. obviously would be one of the better picks I think the Dolphins could make. I think they'll really like him. He's also in Michigan. Makes sense. It's a big need. Would be good value. I think the other corner that's in play is Jahdae Barron, just from every perspective. You hear him being talked about, his interviews. He knocks him out of the park with his football intelligence. Like high character guy, fits the scheme perfectly. I think I have him rated around as I have him rated as the 11th or 12th player in the class. I know that's probably high for some, but for me, 13 would be good value for him. Gives great versatility too. If you drafted him, every player in your secondary, every corner in your secondary would have outside and inside versatility. And Barron and Ramsey have even potential safety versatility. So Barron, big fan. He's someone I could see the Dolphins taking as well. And then at safety, I think Malachi Starks. I only put him because I think the Dolphins might be interested in Emanwari, but I wouldn't be good with that pick at 13. I would take all these other guys over him, and even someone that I'm probably not going to mention, I would take over Emanwari. But Starks would be the one. I think he would fit in perfectly, like I talked about. He can play free safety, good scheme fit. Also, just perfect match piece. He would be the guy that you kind of use everywhere. This is in no order, and then going over, I did highlight Tyler Warren just because I love Tyler Warren so much. I don't know if the Dolphins would actually be interested, but I just had to throw him in there just in case because I would be definitely okay with that pick, but not going to spend too much time there. And then O-line. I put 2 O-linemen here. One being Armand Membo. I think he's just the perfect scheme fit for Miami. I think it would be great value. I think he's going to be gone. I think he's moved his way up. He tested super well. He's one of the best reach blockers in the class. I think he's one of the guys that can clearly, he has the body type that I think has the ability to play tackle and guard. Has enough of a physical mentality. I think you just plug and play right away at one of your guard spots, and can also potentially be your right tackle if Jackson went down with injuries and stuff, and just tackle of the future. And the other one I put was Will Campbell. I didn't put Kelvin Banks because it's just a little bit rich for me. I think the Dolphins could potentially be interested. I don't know, because he does seem like a scheme fit. Texas ran a very similar scheme to Miami, and it wouldn't be a pick that I was pissed about or anything, because but he has never played guard. I have questions about his balance, but I think it's more Campbell. I saw Campbell interview earlier today, and he said most teams view him as a tackle. He said 2 teams that talked to him viewed him as a guard, and that's because they have tackles. I wonder if one of those 2 teams is Miami, because I wonder if they view him as a guard just because they have tackles, and then maybe he could be a tackle of the future. But both guys will probably be gone, Membo, Will Campbell, but you never know. Those are the ones I'm considering. I've seen more people mocking the Dolphins left tackles like Josh Simmons and stuff. I don't think that would be the ideal pick. I've heard there's some maybe potential character concerns with Josh Simmons, and he's coming off a major injury. Very good player, but just not the direction I would go. And then D-line. On D-line, I only put 2. I put Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. I put the two Michigan D tackles. I would take Derek Harmon in a trade back. But I don't think I would take any of the other D linemen. But yeah, both the Michigan guys, very different players. Mason Graham, I think, would be more impactful, right away all around. Maybe he doesn't have as high of a ceiling as Grant does, but he has more versatile alignment ability, more pass rush impact right away. I think he could fall just because he's he maybe didn't test and came in a little undersized, small arms, but that guy's productive. He knows how to get after it. I've seen this guy playing standing up off the edge too. This guy's an athlete. I think he's more of a 3-tech, penetrate, disrupt type thing. Well, Kenneth Grant has a little more limited alignment stuff, but man, you don't see guys at this size move the way he does. And even sometimes when he's not even rushing with a plan, he'll still just bully and basically collapse the pocket on quarterbacks. And the way that he can, his suddenness to gap exchange and the power that he possesses, it's very, very impressive. And I've definitely become, definitely one of the picks I'd be cool with on D line. And I think those feel the most likely to me. And maybe there's other ones. I didn't put Shamar Stewart, but I do think the Dolphins would potentially be interested in Shamar Stewart if he fell. And then at linebacker, I think Jalen Walker is one I could see the Dolphins potentially being interested in because I mean I think it's less becoming less and less likely to happen in my head each day just because of how they attacked linebacker and edge. But they did start adding some people that do have some linebacker edge versatility. I think Walker's the type of player they would like, but they have a lot of people in that room now. And Walker is a tweener type player, so I don't know if he would be the best, but I put him down just in case. He would be sort of the end of the option list, and I do like him as a player, but yeah, let's see. Uh, hmm, oh, what was that? Did you hear it ticking? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, Barron and Johnson Grant. Yep, those would be totally. Yep, three guys I mentioned. You think she would be a search? Yeah. Barron is a straight baller. Agreed. Membo, Campbell, Johnson, Grant, and Starks are my top five in that order. Membo, Campbell, Will Johnson, Grant, Starks are top five in that order. Yeah, I mean, I might move it around a little bit, but yeah, I definitely feel that. Do you see Barron as an all-pro starter? I mean, I would probably. I don't think. Probably not all-pro. Maybe a tick below all-pro. But I think he's going to be a very good player. Do you think Banks can play left guard? I do think he can play left guard. Honestly, I think it might even be better for him. Do I think he'll be a better prospect than Booker? The problem, it's hard to compare him to like Booker. Maybe Jackson is more comparable because Jackson has played some left tackle. Booker and Banks are just very different players. Like Banks would thrive in more of an outside zone heavy scheme, while Booker would probably thrive more in a gap heavy scheme. So I think it would just depend on like what team you were for that. And then Jackson's one who I think is more in the middle and kind of do it all. I think that kind of depends, but I would rank Jackson over all of them actually. Boise State running back should be our pick at 13 if he falls to us. Honestly, I didn't put Ashton Genty down because I think he's going to be gone. Not 100% sure, but I do think he's going to be gone. Two, I just don't think the Dolphins are going to take a running back at 13. I actually wouldn't be that mad about it. Like if you look at it from just like an impact perspective, Genty would probably make one of the biggest impacts like right away for you as a team. Like he would help change your identity. And it would allow you to play Achane more at receiver too. Like he could be your little workhorse and like you could be more of like a run heavy team. Like it would be interesting. I wouldn't do it, but it would be interesting. Like they could do worse. Let me see. Can you see Miami undoubtedly taking armor with their V drops to them? And do you see him playing left guard? So I knew he played at right guard and right tackle. It was very interesting. Well, to be fair, James Daniels has said he doesn't know what he's playing, and the team's still like, kind of figuring it out. So it does seem, I do think if they were to draft him, I think James Daniels would probably slide over to left guard, and then Membo would play right guard, and then he would bump out to right tackle if Jackson went down. I don't know if they would. I'll say this: if he was there at 13, I don't think he would be a lock to be the pick, because I don't think an O lineman is a lock for Miami in the first round. I think depending on who else is there, I think they would still consider going in other directions. Harmon college career 20% missed tackle. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talk about the whole tackle thing. To be honest, I don't really care about your tackle stats when you're defensive tackle that much. I understand having a little bit of pause, and it's like it's definitely something to take note of, but I do think it's a little bit overrated of a topic. I think that's more of like a linebacker thing. Like tackles, I want you just to be constantly disruptive. If you're, disrupting a play, but you not able to bring down the tackle, but you disrupted the play enough to where everyone else was able to tackle it, then like I'll take that D lineman on my team every day. Like I don't need my D lineman to have like crazy tackle stats. Because sometimes when D linemen have like super high tackle stats, that means they were like making tackles like 5-6 yards down the field. I think it just depends. Like that's a stat that needs like context. I would have to like go back and watch the film and see like what his missed tackles actually led to. And when he was making tackles, where did they make the tackles? Yeah. Where was I? No Walkers, Jalen, or Dion. I wouldn't take Dion. James Daniels would be playing left guard because the right side of the line is more power based. Well, I think Daniels got power. I think the reason I understand both perspectives because I think Daniels and Jackson would be like a dominant run blocking duo on the right side. But I also understand the perspective of like wanting to have a vet next to Patrick Paul and then not having, like two rookies next to each other on that side. If like the guy you draft is your other starter. So I think it just depends on how it ends up playing out. Just would not put a rookie. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I can see either way. Like I'm not like completely against it. Like I think it's one of those things that like yes is a thing that matters, but I don't think it's like an end all be all type situation. James Daniels. See, I thought James Daniels had good power in the run game. I wouldn't say like his anchor was like crazy or anything, but I like him. Like same with Jackson. Jackson doesn't have a great anchor either, but they're both like people movers in the run game. Like when they're moving forward, they move people. Have you seen that? Yeah, Willie Lampkin. I made a video on him, film breakdown. It's members only right now, but yeah, I do like Willie Lampkin, and he played right guard at North Carolina. But yeah, he'll probably play center at the next level. As far as D tackle, who's the best pass rusher at this moment in your opinion? Best pass rusher? Honestly, it might be. It literally might be Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee. It's like a pure pass rusher. So I know his pass rush like win rate and disruption rate is super high. He did play less snaps, but like he was constantly winning one on ones. And he's more of like a day two guy. He might be the best pure pass rusher though. Ebles is another one. Mason Graham, obviously. Is Banks a better prospect than Paul? Better prospect, yeah, probably. Uh, yeah, Jihad Campbell's hurt. We talked about. He got a. What was the last week he had? I thought I had it written down. He had, yeah, torn labrum surgery, which probably keeps him out, a decent chunk of the year. I'd say we need a run stopper and a pass rusher. I mean, I don't really. I think they need guys with balanced skill sets. Which alignment do you think are worthy of 13th selection? Honestly, Will Campbell and Armand Mabel. I think it's early for Kelvin Banks. I think it's early for Tyler Booker. I could see Josh Simmons being argued because of his film, but he is coming off an injury, so I'm not going to argue that either. To me, it's just Campbell and Mabel is what I would do. Everyone else, I'd probably rather go at a different position and then take O-line on day two. Run stuff for Tyler Williams, yeah. Run stuff for Tyler Williams, Alfred Collins. Let's see who else is a run stuffer. But those are like the two big ones for sure. Kenneth Grant as well, obviously. Then there's some nose players that do good work versus the run. One techs like CJ West, Jamari Caldwell. Yeah. You go here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. That's what I wanted to talk about there. Okay. I don't even think Booker fits our system. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I was just talking more in general about the O lineman there. But yeah, I agree. I think Booker. Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't take him. I would rather take Donovan Jackson if we're going like guard. You got your wall painted. I just noticed. Yeah, we fixed it up. How similar do you think Calais Campbell and Dean Walker's game is? Uh, I get they're both like super tall and stuff. I don't think they're that similar. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Deion Walker personally. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I actually wanted to kind of play this if you guys give me guys that you think are going to be like more second round options and give me like two options. So I could kind of like we could stack these players in my head, like say like, this player or that player and like who I would take at 48 for Miami. You guys want to give me some options? When I favorite second round edge, let's see end. Let me go here. Edge. Yeah. Let me scroll through. Favorite second round. Actually, I don't know if I love a lot of second round edges. I think a lot of these guys might be seen more as like third rounders. Who will end up going in the second is the question. I actually don't think I have one that I love for Miami. Because I think most of the guys that I'm like looking at here will go a little bit later than second round, like Jared Ivey, like a bigger edge. Because I'm looking, if you're adding an edge, I'm looking for more of like a bigger type edge, like a strong side defensive end. Something that sort of can blend with a Phillips and Chop Robinson skill set. Bo, oh, okay, that's a good one. Okay. Bo or Xavier Watts? This is a fun one. And I like both player lots. I have both players like highlighted. On my list, I have everyone like highlighted in blue that are like guys I really like for Miami and just guys I like in general. And Bo and Watts are both highlighted. I think I'm gonna say Xavier Watts, just because I do think Bo would be a better. Like I actually still think I have a tough time projecting exactly what position he's gonna play at the next level. Because I think there's a world where like certain players, like I have a very specific view of like, oh, that guy's a guard, that guy's a tackle. Bo, I'm like, I don't know if he's a tackle, guard, or center with his size. Like, because with his size, I'm like, in length, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, he doesn't have the weight to play guard and hold up, but he doesn't have the length to play tackle. At least, prototypically. But he has the athleticism to play tackle, and his like skill sets tells you tackle. But then like the size almost says like, oh, is he a center? So I'm thinking I would go Xavier Watts. Swinson, Birch, Femi. Yeah, all those guys you mentioned too, Papa. I like all of them. I just don't know if they're second round guys. I think Swinson second round. I could see Birch going second round. Same with Femi Oladejo. I like Oladejo and Birch as fits for Miami. Swinson is more of like what the Dolphins already have. But those are guys that are solid day two options. I just don't know if they're all second round players. Those are guys I'm like, I wasn't sure they were going to go. Okay. A lot of people asking about Watts. Okay, Tate or Watts? Tate Ratledge or Watts? Oof. That's a tough one, actually. Because Ratledge is like, his film pre-injury was so good, but then after the injury, it wasn't as good. So it's like, can be tough to evaluate. I think I'm just going to go Xavier Watts. I love Xavier Watts. He's like, I love smart football players. And I just know Watts is going to be a damn good player. So Watts will probably be an answer for a lot of these questions. Booker on a fifth would be a different. Okay, Lampkin took Deanna Wuncher's look. He did start. Okay, wait, I don't know what you're saying. UCLA linebacker or safety Watts? I would still say Watts, but I do love Schlesinger. Ooh, Benjamin Morrison or Siobhan Revelle Jr. Both extremely talented players. Honestly, some of the better players in this class, both coming off of injuries. Revelle coming off the ACL, so it's a little more serious. But I have Revelle rated higher right now. I have a first round grade on Revelle, just based purely on film. And I have like a second on Morrison. But Morrison's like a top of the second guy. So I will go Revelle. I think Revelle's like legit. Gray Zabel, love Zabel. He did start. Oh, you're talking to that guy in the chat. My dart. I don't think I did start, did I? I just said like I wouldn't take him in the first two rounds. I talked about his strengths and weaknesses. He's not a bad player. He's just not. He's got his issues. Tesla or Ricky White? Okay, this is a fun one too. This is not a round 2 one, but I do like this from you, Joe. I think I'm gonna go for Isaac Tesla for Miami. Big body receiver. I think this would be like a late round option you could take because he's big and he's super athletic. He tested super well, and he's like willing to go out there and block. I actually thought like when I watched him, like he seems like a Sean McVay receiver, and I think the Dolphins should be trying to get some Sean McVay type receivers incorporated in their offense. So I think I would go Tesla, but Ricky Wright's really fun. Very good special teams player as well. Ratledge or Amos? Probably Ratledge. Javon Ravel or Darius Alexander? Ravel, but I do love Alexander. Milam, Watts. We need to take a tight end somewhere. We have 0 tight end in our college. Yeah, I agree. Savania or Ursary? Okay. This is an interesting one. I think for Miami specifically, I would go Savania because I think both could play guard at the next level, but I think Savania obviously has like that more experience of it. And I could see him like plug and play right away. Ursary, I would have a little more questions with if that fit would slide over. I do think he would be a fit in the scheme as a tackle, but I don't know if he would play right away. Well, I think Jonah would probably see playing time pretty quickly. What's your pick at Jonah or Wyatt? Jonah, Ravel. Yeah, I have a Ravel in the top 10. I think I have Ravel as like a 10. He's either like 9 or 10, something like that. Farmer or Collins? Collins. Just more consistency with Collins as a run defender at least. And I think he can develop he has like the size and athleticism to work with to develop as a pass rusher. But I think he can make a clear impact right away as a run defender. Monangai or Damian Martinez? Martinez. Pretty easily. And I like Monangai, but I think Martinez for sure. What do you think about Nick Westbrook-Ikini's route running and separation ability? I don't think he's a big separator, but I think he's like a smart route runner. Like he knows how to set people up. He's never going to be like a huge separator because he doesn't have like the crazy athleticism to separate. Like I think he runs like good like paced routes. He knows how to manipulate with like his body language, his eyes to get open, and he'll make some tough catches. Like he has enough of a route tree that fits what Miami does. Mason Taylor, just bringing in old Dolphins, bringing in the Suns, the old Dolphins. Savion Williams goes second round due to weak class. In my opinion, he might. I would not take him second round, but I can understand why someone might. Let me see. Savion, am I missing something? Yeah, I'm not on the Savion. What round is Savion Williams landing? Oh, okay, that's why. Yeah, I get why people like Savion Williams, but I personally see more of a ball in hand type player than I see a true receiver. I see Morrison or Aziz. Are you talking about Thomas, right? I'm guessing. Azare? Is that what you're talking about? I'm gonna say Morrison, if that's the question. I think Morrison is a really good player. Has some questions with the injury, but just strictly based off him. Mason Taylor, Chris Paul Jr., both players I really like. I would say Mason Taylor. I really like Chris Paul Jr. I think Taylor is just going to be rated a little bit higher for me. I think his athleticism is really good. I think he's just being a really good receiver in the league as a tight end. And then he also has like enough size. Like to me, when it comes to tight end blocking, like if you have the size and the want to, I think coaches should be able to figure out how to make a tight end at least an okay blocker at the next level. And I think Taylor has enough of the size and the want to, and he's also just a great athlete, very reliable. So I would take Taylor, even though I think Chris Paul's a good player. Ravel going to all. Think we should get a left tackle or waiting on Armstead? I think McDaniel said it. They're kind of going into they were going into the offseason thinking that Armstead wasn't going to be a part of the team. So I think they're still treating it like that. I think they're probably still going to draft a tackle at some point. I don't think they're going to draft a tackle to start, though. I think they're going into the season thinking Patrick Paul is your starter. Arroyo or Mason? That one's tough. I actually have Arroyo and where do I have them actually? They're literally right. They're back to back for me, I think. Yeah, they are pretty much right on top of each other. To me, Arroyo or Mason just depends on the team. I think if I was going Dolphins, I would go Taylor. I think Taylor fits better from the Dolphins' perspective. But I think if you wanted more of like a seam threat, route running in the slot, like pushing the ball down the field vertically offense, then I would go Arroyo. Higgins or Savion Williams? I think Higgins is just the better receiver. I think he's just a smarter. He just like clearly understands how to play the receiver position. While Savion might have higher upside, but also Higgins tested well, so that made me feel pretty good about it. Demetrius Snyder, Carson Schlesinger. Schlesinger for me, better athlete. Demetrius Snyder is a little bigger and might play with, a little better at the point of attack, but Schlesinger plays physical for his size. Flies downhill, can blitz, better in coverage. Willie Lampkin or Chase Lunt? Wow. Yeah, two very different players. Chase Lunt is like a really good scheme fit, though, for Miami as a swing tackle. I think Chase Lunt's going to go before Lampkin. Besh or Higgins? Jack Besh for me. Jack Besh is one of my favorite players in this class. I love Jack Besh. Like Higgins a lot, though. I do think Savonai has somewhat of an injury history. I don't know what it is, though, exactly. Savion Williams, no, thanks. To me, if I'm drafting a receiver, I want a receiver that knows how to play receiver first, and then the other stuff is all added on. To me, all the stuff that is added on and Savion Williams does more of, that's like the main thing Savion does. I don't want that to be your main thing. I want that to be like the added extra flavor to what you do. But I do think McDaniel would get the most out of Savion Williams. That is a player he would like. I mean, I feel like Gunnar Helm is a rich man as Aaron Smith. I like Gunnar Helm for the Dolphins. Brandon Scherf. I would not pay Brandon Scherf much. He's old and has kind of fallen off his play. He's not the player he used to be. Like, he would be an upgrade over what you have right now at your left guard spot. But he's not the player he used to be. So it would have to be super cheap. Buchanan or Kaiser? Ooh, I think Buchanan. I like Buchanan's skill set and the way he plays. I also like Jack Kaiser, though. I thought he was a little more fluid and athletic than people give him credit for, and obviously a smart player. But Buchanan's a playmaker, and he does it from off ball, and he'll do some of it off the edge as well. He spies, he drops. I don't know. Buchanan just like intrigues me. Charles Grant or Chase Lunt? That's a tough one. Both, I think, outside zone scheme type guys that move really well. Lunt's like a little like that longer, taller type player, while Grant's a little more well built. I think I'd probably go. Man, I think I would go Grant. I just think there's more upside to work there with, and they're both guys that kind of need to be developed. I think I would go Grant. Ransom or Winston Jr. third round safety? Purely based on film, Winston. But I understand Winston's coming off the injury, so I would understand if people would take Ransom over him. But I think Winston's a more well-rounded player, especially in coverage. but both very good tacklers, very physical. Ransom's going to hit you as hard as he can. He's going to come downhill, play that alley. And then Winston, I believe, has like the lowest missed tackle rate, like a safety I've seen. Like it was like under 2%, which is crazy. I love Jack Besh, man. Jack Besh is so fun to watch. I saw a clip of him the other day. I think someone posted on Twitter, but it was him like in scramble drill at LSU and him just like running in front of Brian Thomas Jr. and like stealing the ball from him. It was pretty funny. But he's a stud. Jack Besh is a guy I have very high hopes for. Besh is Dylan Gabriel or Will Howard. Will Howard is just a better prospect. I hate comparisons, but Besh can turn out like Besh is definitely a Rams type of receiver. Like all those types of guys. Those guys that can play like sort of inside, outside, a little bigger, but they just have that dog in them. Thomas or Hairston? See, I would have said Hairston, but I did hear like it seems like Hairston has some like serious off-field stuff from what I saw. So I'd probably go Thomas. Red Harmon is a poor tackler. Anyone else hear that? We talked about it a little bit earlier. But I will say, yes, it's something to take notice of, but the reason like defensive tackles missing a tackle isn't as important, I think, is because typically when a D tackle misses a tackle, for the most part, obviously it depends on the play, but for the most part, when a D tackle misses a tackle, that runner's slowed down enough and everyone is already on them and it still is a tackle for loss or it's a tackle at the line of scrimmage. It's much more important for like, oh, if a linebacker or a safety is missing tackles, usually when they're missing tackles, that play gains an extra 10, 15 yards because they're more out in space. So I don't know. It just depends on what kind of tackles they're missing. I'll go back and watch the film to see what kind of tackles are being missed and what plays are being considered missing tackles, but I'll go back. Fannin or Ferguson? I like Ferguson more for Miami. Fannon's going to be a solid player, though. I do see Fannin as like a Johnny Smith type. Is Malachi more of a center field safety in the NFL than Strong? To me, he might be a versatile. He's definitely a versatile player. He'll play everywhere. Safeties are interchangeable in the NFL at this point, but I do think a team will get the most out of Starks playing as a free safety. Georgia tried to make him play like majority nickel last year, and it just like, I think it hurt him a bit. Like he can play nickel for you, but I don't think he should be there like majority of his snaps. Jurasek or Conyers? For the Dolphins, Conyers, but I actually have clips on Jurasek, Benjamin Jurasek, very interesting guy, but they're quite different players. I think Conyers actually has the chance of developing into like a decent inline guy. Well, that's not Jurasek's game. He doesn't have like the size for it. He's going to be an F tight end playing the slot, and I thought his game was underrated. He was definitely better at Stanford than he was at Georgia. Jonas Sinker, Billy Bowman. I need more film on Bowman because Bowman seems like my type of player. I also really like Jonas Sinker. He's one of the players I've highlighted for a while. But Bowman is like that. He seems like the later round version of Andrew Makuba. But I only have one game on Billy Bowman, so I don't feel comfortable enough to know exactly where I'm going to rate Bowman yet. So I'll say Sinker for now. Mel Kiper says Sean Dolick is Zach Thomas 2.0 out of Buffalo. I actually do have Sean Dolick clips on my laptop that I might make a video on him. I mean, saying he's Zach Thomas 2.0 is a bit crazy, but he's fun. Peebles or West? Oof. It's always tough because they're such different players. I think Peebles is really fun, but I just think they're both going to be rotational players right away. But I think West has the better chance of being like the starter, just due to like him holding up better versus the run at the point of attack than I think Peebles does. Well, I think Peebles will make more of an impact as a pass rusher. So I'll say West. People say that Nick E is not a very physical safety given his size and he's kind of shies away from contact in the running. Is that true? Like, I wouldn't say he's soft or like shies away from it, but I don't think he's a guy that overly goes out and looks for contact. Like, he doesn't really fly down and help a lot in the run game as much as I would like for a guy of his size. It's something that definitely turned me off from him. Scatabo or Giddens? Probably Scatabo for me. But that's because I've been looking more for like short yardage, grinded out backs in this class for Miami. I think Giddens has got pushed up a little too much. Like, I liked Giddens early in the process, but I think he got pushed up a little too much lately. He's still a solid player though. Surf or turf? Oof. Uh, Surf. Royals or Tez Johnson? Royals. I think Royals is going to be a very good player at the next level. I do still like Tez though. I know people will be turned off by the 40. I still think Tez makes it at the NFL level. But I think Royals is like a quality second round receiver. Very well rounded skill set. Looks like Tarzan plays like Jane. Yeah, quoting what's draft day? Yep. Any more? Any final questions? Uh Jackson Slater or Miles Frazier? I need more film on Jackson Slater because I don't have a ton of Sacramento State film. Um, I'll say this: I'm not as high on Miles Frazier, I think, for Miami as I think some other people are. I think I just like would take him like a round later than where I usually see him going. Porter or Noel Williams? I would take Noel Williams. I don't see it with Royals or Amanor. Um, I think both are going to be pretty good players in the league, especially if Amanor ends up in like a McVay type scheme system, something like that. I see you guys talking about some coverages. Yeah, Dolphins last year played a lot of cover three, and they did play a lot of Tampa 2. Like, they played a lot of like different variations of Tampa 2, like with how like who would be like that Mike. It ended up, being a safety at times. Sometimes they would roll their nickel back, their nickel back, it being one of the deep half safeties. Definitely interesting to see how the Dolphins rotated their coverages. I actually want to I think I'll make a video on it after the draft about like all the way. I think that was probably the most interesting thing with what Weaver did last year is I think a lot of the coverage rotations in obvious passing situations was very interesting. Ellick might not be able to get a work visa. I mean, it's the NFL. I think he'll get a work visa. If not Brandon Scherf, then who better? Not say Shaq Mason. I said Will Hernandez earlier. That's who, like, that would be my top option at guard because he's younger. I think still has something left in the tank. I don't love all of the guard options, but probably like the top one. Have you watched any Stutzman? Yes, I have watched Stutzman. I'm probably lower on Stutzman than some other people. I don't know exactly where I'm seeing him in the draft. I've seen him in different spots. I just think I think for me, when it comes to linebacker play, one of the biggest and most important things is processing. Processing is just like your mental processing is so important. So like processing instincts. I think he actually has like he is a big body, and I actually think he moves pretty well for his size. So like there is physical traits to work with, and I actually think like his instincts and coverage aren't that bad. But I think his eyes and feel versus the run are probably the worst I've seen in this class. And to me, that's like, if you don't have a good processing versus the run, it's going to be tough to have you on the field. And it's usually tough to fix that too. Like usually you don't get a lot better at that. I think linebacker is one of the positions they're just going to ignore at this point in the draft. I haven't seen Rucker. Yeah, okay. Well, lineman will give two of the most time to throw without pressure, not players that have to do with run blocking. See, to me, I mean, you're asking the wrong questions to me, because to me, I'm looking for guards that can run block. As long as you're not horrible in pass protection, the Dolphins can completely get away with it, because run blocking was the issue last year. The Dolphins couldn't run the ball, and that not only hurt the run game, obviously, it hurt the pass game. They couldn't run their play action as efficiently, which creating play action is how you create time in the pocket. So running the ball well is actually what will create time for Tua to throw. And time for Tua to throw is really not the Dolphins' biggest issue at all. Like, I know people think they need more time, but it's just not how the offense operates. So they need to find guys that can more consistently run block. So adding guys that can run block on the interior, and that's why I talked about, yes, why tight ends that can run block are why I'm like very high on looking for guys that are more run blocking oriented than maybe guys that are, because if you like, I've seen some guys in this draft class that are just pass blockers. They don't give you anything in the run game. I think that's pretty much useless as a guard in Miami. Like, if you can't run block, like, I don't want you on the field. Like, if you're a guy that, even if you're really good in pass protection, like, it doesn't really help the Dolphins that much. But I don't understand why you want Tua to throw fast instead give him time. Because Tua is at his best when he's playing fast. And it's not just about Tua playing fast. Like, it's the play action that gives, like, creating the run game is what will give Tua more time. Because when the Dolphins do concepts that require more time, they always do it out of play action. And when you're running the ball successfully, then defensive linemen, edges don't shoot as fast up the field. So when you run your play action game and you make pass blocking easier because the guys aren't shooting up the field as fast, you're jump setting into people, so you're able to stop them early on. It stops their momentum. That's what creates more time for Tua. And then he can still do all the other quick things. That's what opens up this thing. That's why when the Dolphins offense was at its best is when they were the best running team in the NFL in 2023. And then when they couldn't run the ball as effectively, that's when they fell off. And they don't even need to be like a heavy run team. They just have to run successfully when they do run the ball. But playing fast will never work in big games against Green Bay, Buffalo, etc. It will if they can run the ball. When they ran the ball well, like when they played Buffalo last year, the second game, they ran the ball decently well until Mostert fumbled. Tua played fast the whole game, and the offense probably played their best game against the Bills. Like, yeah, having more time in the pocket is nice. Like, I'm not saying, oh, we shouldn't have that, but it's not even like having someone that's just having someone at guard that's just like a good pass protector is not going to solve very many problems, like, at all for me, for the Dolphins offense, in my opinion. Having someone in there that can bully people, create some movement in the running game, that can potentially be a game changer. Let's see. So once we come out, we just the more time Tua has, the worse his numbers are. You could have a Goff type season if he gets a run game. I mean, yeah. Tua is the problem, not the line. I mean, that's just not true if you watch. I'm not saying he hasn't had problems, but there's a lot bigger problems than Tua. Um, I don't even but I pretty much just stopped talking about that at this point. Yeah, but in 2023 we didn't win big games. We won some big games early on, but that's when we could run the ball. We lost the ability to we lost some big games later in the season because we stopped being able to run the ball successfully. And obviously it's not that simple. There's more things going on. But I don't think if the Dolphins, here's what I'll say. If the Dolphins went into the thing and were like, hey, we're just gonna be more of a pass protecting type of team. We're gonna change up our system. We're gonna play more true pass sets. We're gonna bring in O linemen that are just good, more pass protectors, better than run blockers. The offense would be completely different, but it would not be better just due to what the players you have are. I don't think they would be better. I think they would be better if they had guys that couldn't run the ball, or you were more bully type of players. The Bills played us in scrimmage mode. I don't even know what you're talking about, Billy. What would be your hope in this draft? What would make you say this was a good draft? Draft good players? I mean, honestly, it literally just comes down to the players. I want to get more physical. That's obviously very helpful. I think getting more physical on both sides of the trenches will be very nice. But I don't want to just completely ignore other spots. I think being able to, just draft best players at each spot. If I think they went to the mindset of just drafting the best player available, I think I'd come away pretty happy. But we might not see it the exact same way. Appreciate it, Michael. Tua is worse when he's holding on the ball. Partly true, since Tua is his best when he gets the ball out quicker than 2.5 seconds. I mean that's kind of true for most quarterbacks that aren't super athletic. That the stats can be a little misleading because typically when a QB, you have to think when a QB is holding onto the ball longer, that means the receivers for the most part aren't getting open as much. Usually when they're most QBs are better when they're getting rid of the ball quickly because that usually means they're making easier throws as well. It's the same thing for Mahomes. Even though he's an athletic QB that can create plays off script. But if you look at what Mahomes, even the Bills, most of their game, majority of the game for those quarterbacks is just quick passes. Quick passes, boom, ball out, screen, RPO. And then they have the big play being made. It's all about being well balanced for sure. That's just not true. Okay. Yeah, I agree, Eric. Who's one player that even if you hated every other pick, you would say great draft? Who's the one player that even if you hated every other pick, you would say great draft? One player? I don't know if there would be one player, to be honest. If I hated every other pick, I don't think I have that player in the first round that's just that change. It doesn't matter. He's a franchise changer. Honestly, I don't think that exists. Cam Ward, no. If they, I mean, if they drafted Cam Ward, that probably would mean all the other picks were pretty bad because they probably traded away most of them. And that would not solve our overall problems. We have a lot of needs to fill, and then I don't think, yeah, I mean, Ward would be more of a long-term solution, not a short-term fix. Because I think Ward would be brought in for your next head coach. Because I don't think Ward fits Daniel. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.